Phillip Schofield is broken and ashamed after the affair he had with a younger colleague, but says he committed no crime.
I should have known better. I shouldn't have done it. I have brought myself down. I am done. And if my girls hadn't been there, I wouldn't be here, because I don't see a future.
In his first interview since he left ITV, Schofield said his career is over and he sees nothing ahead but regrets. But there was support for him today from his former This Morning colleague, Alison Hammond.
You know, I loved Phillip Schofield, and it's weird because I still love Phillip Schofield. However, what he's done is wrong. He's admitted it, he's said sorry. But I mean, as a family, we're all really struggling to process everything.
Also this lunchtime, Boris Johnson says he will hand over his full WhatsApp messages to the COVID inquiry. Calls for Dorset police to clarify the circumstances surrounding the deaths of two youngsters at Bournemouth Pier. The Premier League condemns the Roma fans who abused an English referee after their defeat in Budapest. And the family divided between red and blue for the first ever All-Manchester FA Cup final.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Geraint Vincent.
Good afternoon. There is a haunted look about Phillip Schofield in the media interviews he has given, the first since his departure from ITV and the show he has presented for more than 20 years. He has lost everything, he says, because of the affair he had with a male colleague, and he is desperately sorry. The presenter also said he has had suicidal thoughts, and there were tearful words of support for him today from the colleague who has been standing in for him. Here's Charlie Frost.
A week since he admitted to an affair with a younger colleague, Phillip Schofield shares his side of the story in a BBC interview.
I kissed someone in the workplace, which led on to a little bit more. And that, you know, retrospectively, of course, you think, my friends have said, what the hell were you thinking? You don't do that. You've never done that.
A friendship that started as a conversation on social media and turned into the then teenager getting work experience, and then, when he was in his 20s, a job at This Morning.
And then, in my dressing room one day, something happened. Which, obviously I will regret forever, for him and for me, mostly him.
But this is Phillip Schofield's version of what happened. We'll hear from ITV later this month, when the broadcaster's chief executive, Carolyn McCall, and other bosses are questioned by an influential group of MPs. The Culture, Media and Sport Committee looking into ITV's handling of the case and if there was an abuse of power. But in his account, Schofield says it didn't feel that way to him, describing the severe impact the last week has had on his mental health.
I have brought myself down. I am done. I have to talk about television in the past tense, which breaks my heart. But it continues, and it is relentless, and it is day after day after day after day. And if you do that, if you don't think that that is going to have the most catastrophic effect on someone's mind, what do you want me to die? Because that's where I am.
His testimony driving his former colleague Alison Hammond to tears on today's This Morning.
Oh, I'm just finding it really painful because obviously, I loved Phillip Schofield, and it's weird because I still love Phillip Schofield. However, what he's done is wrong. He's admitted it, he's said sorry. But as a family, we're all really struggling to process everything.
Admitting he believes his career is over, Phillip Schofield ended the interview with a repeated apology, while ITV's launched an external investigation to find out exactly what happened. Charlie Frost, ITV News.
The former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, says he will give the COVID inquiry all the WhatsApp messages he has and he will hand them over today. The government, meanwhile, is going to court to try to keep the power to decide what the inquiry gets to see, including Mr Johnson's messages and notebooks. Well, I'm joined by our political correspondent, Carl Dinnan. Carl, what do you think the inquiry is going to receive, then?
Well, Boris Johnson has said they can have everything they want, and what they want is all his WhatsApps and his notebooks from the COVID period. But it's not quite as simple as just handing them all over. For a start, he doesn't have his notebooks anymore. He's given all those to the government. So he said either he will ask them to hand them over, or if they refuse, he'll ask for them back so that he can hand them over. On the WhatsApps, he does have his WhatsApps from May 2021, basically post-pandemic, and he is going to hand those over. But everything before that, probably the key ones, are on an old phone that the security services told him to turn off and never turn on again after its number was leaked online. So he says that he has asked for the government's help in turning that on again in a secure way so that he can give the information on it to the inquiry.
And why do you think Mr Johnson's so keen to help out the inquiry?
Well, he says that he is happy for all of his information to go to them and doesn't want to be part of the test case that the government is taking to block the inquiry getting everything in an unredacted manner. The government says it doesn't want everything to go to the inquiry because of privacy concerns and because of the way it might harm government decision-making in future. This is what the Transport Minister, Richard Holden, said today.
This is a really important thing that we're doing here. We've had this open inquiry on this. What is also important on the other side is that government ministers can also have those conversations in private as well. But it's right that as much information as possible is published. I know that's what the government's committed to.
But what might also be on Boris Johnson's mind in being this helpful to the inquiry, that of course this is an inquiry that will mostly look at what he did right or wrong. So it may well be in his interest to be as helpful and as open with the inquiry as he can be at this early stage.
OK, Carl, many thanks. The Premier League has condemned the abuse directed at English referee Anthony Taylor as he made his way home after officiating at the Europa League final on Wednesday night. Mr Taylor and his family were accosted by Roma fans whose team had lost on penalties to Seville. And as Amy Lewis reports, there are questions too about the behaviour of Roma's manager, none other than Jose Mourinho.
For referees, abuse on the pitch is nothing new, but off the field they wouldn't expect anything like this. Anthony Taylor, weaving through the airport, shields his family from a violent crowd. Is football really prepared to accept this behaviour towards its official?
The
lads lost a match and I lost it as well, but we haven't lost our dignity, the opposite. But minutes later, he was anything but dignified. Taylor was subjected to this verbal attack as he was trying to leave the ground. Today, the Premier League said, no one should have to suffer the inexcusable behaviour Anthony Taylor and his family had to endure yesterday. Anthony is one of our most experienced and accomplished match officials, and we fully support him and his family.
Pantomime antics has a direct effect on young referees who are out there at grassroots level, without cameras, without police, without stewards. This behaviour is mimicked at grassroots level where referees, young children under the age of 18, are getting faced with similar behaviour on the touchlines.
Where abusing not just them but their families is considered acceptable. Amy Lewis, ITV News.
A sightseeing boat has been impounded by police in Dorset following a fatal incident in Bournemouth this week. Emergency services responded to calls for help off Bournemouth Pier shortly after 4:30 on Wednesday afternoon. First responders rescued 10 people from the water, 8 of whom were treated on site for non-life-threatening injuries. But a 17-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl died in hospital later that day. The same night, a man in his 40s, who police say was on the water at the time of the incident, was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. He was released under investigation. Well, we can go to James Dunham now, who is in Poole. James, what's happening where you are right now?
Well, ordinarily, Geraint, on a hot, sunny day like today, the Dorset Bell would be picking up people from Bournemouth Pier and taking them along the coast. This lunchtime, though, the pleasure cruiser is impounded at this private marina. You might be able to see it just to the top right of your screen. And we understand that it arrived here last night under police examination. People have been told to stay away from it. Dorset Police, though, are yet to confirm whether it is linked to the investigation into what's happened on Wednesday afternoon on Bournemouth Beach. But ITV News has been shown footage which shows it's operating in the area of the time of the tragedy.
And James, we're almost 48 hours on from this incident, but we still don't know exactly what happened. Mystery surrounds it all. Are the police going to tell us anything else today, do you think?
It's interesting. Police have told us more about what didn't happen than what did. We know that the 10 people who found themselves in difficulty in the water were not jumping off the pier, nor were they hit by a vessel. Dorset Police in the last few minutes has told me that any updates on this investigation will be released proactively, and there are no more statements planned at this moment in time. The MP for Bournemouth, Tobias Ellwood, has called for more clarity to give reassurance to people heading to the coastline to enjoy a day on the beach. But as you say, Geraint, still so many questions around what led to the major emergency on Wednesday and the devastating loss of those 2 young lives.
OK, James, many thanks. A teenage terrorist who plotted to kill police officers and members of the armed forces has been sentenced at the Old Bailey. Muslim convert Matthew King, who's 19 years old, became obsessed with radical Islam during the COVID lockdown. Well, Sam Holder is at the Old Bailey. Sam, take us through this case, can you?
Well, Matthew King self-radicalised online, Geraint, and the key to this case is the fact that his own mother was so concerned at the videos he was watching that she reported him to the anti-extremism programme Prevent. He was then put under police surveillance, and they found out he was carrying out his own surveillance of potential targets such as police stations and courts. In one video he uploaded to Snapchat, he filmed 4 police officers with the caption "Target acquired." He was arrested at his home in Essex after carrying out reconnaissance of an army barracks in East London. When he was arrested, police took his devices and found WhatsApp messages describing his desire to mutilate soldiers and his desire also to go to Syria to fight for the remnants of ISIS. Matthew King pleaded guilty to preparing terrorist attacks. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with a minimum of 6 years. At that point, a parole board will have to decide whether it's safe to release him back into public life.
Sam Holder at the Old Bailey, thank you. A rogue sandbag has been blamed for Joe Biden's fall at the US Air Force Academy yesterday. The US president was handing out the last diploma of a graduation ceremony when he stumbled to the stage floor. The White House says the president is doing fine now. And there was more misery for rail passengers today as the latest round of strikes began. Members of the RMT union in England walked out in a long-running dispute over jobs, pay and conditions. Only around half of regular services are running at most of the train companies affected. Tomorrow, members of ASLEF, the train drivers' union, go on strike, which will leave only 40% of services still running. Now, the Epsom Derby is just one of many sporting events that's likely to be affected by those rail strikes. Today is Ladies' Day at the 2-day festival, and the organisers have promised the biggest ever security operation to stop animal rights protesters from interrupting the racing. ITV Racing's Ed Chamberlain sent us this from Epsom.
Yes, welcome to Epsom in glorious sunshine. But the racecourse and the jockey club really have got their work cut out. Those rail strikes bound to affect the crowd over the next couple of days, and the potential for a protest, particularly tomorrow. You'll remember what happened at Aintree ahead of the Grand National with the race delayed for 14 minutes. Who knows what might happen behind me tomorrow? One thing we do know is it will be the biggest security operation seen at a derby in its 243-year history. But This is a huge expanse of land. There's public land. It's a porous racecourse. It won't be difficult to get onto the track, but the Jockey Club have got that High Court injunction. Who knows what is going to happen? On the track, though, it should be absolutely spectacular. Today, we've got the Betfred Oaks. The Dancing Queens go head-to-head. Save the Last Dance against Soul Sister. Ryan Moore against Frankie Dettori. Aidan O'Brien against John Gosden. What a clash that is. And then tomorrow, the world's most famous flat race and the final ride in the Derby for a certain Frankie Dettori. So it's the Derby here at Epsom, followed by the FA Cup final at Wembley, live on ITV. They both are. It promises to be the most spectacular sporting day. Let's just hope it all goes smoothly.
Ed Chamberlain at Epsom there, lucky man. And you can join Ed and the rest of the ITV racing team from 1:30 on ITV1, ITVX and STV when we begin our coverage of Ladies' Day. And finally this lunchtime, history will be made at Wembley tomorrow when the FA Cup final is contested for the first time by Manchester United and Manchester City. City, of course, are trying to win the treble, the Premier League, FA Cup and the European Cup all in one season. Something that's only ever been achieved by one other club, Manchester United. So the stakes are high and as Callum Watkinson reports, some families are divided.
Football rivalries start young in the Northwest, and the first all-Manchester final in FA Cup history has fans across the city salivating, and family rivalries at fever pitch. At 4 months old, Billy Rossiter's father has decided which side she's on, but not for long if her mother gets her way.
And he said, my first child has to be a red. And I said, yeah, well, she can't make her own decision, but she can be a red. And then when she's old enough to speak, she'll tell us that she's a true blue, deep down. Aren't you?
It's mostly good-natured, but tomorrow in homes across Manchester, the atmosphere is likely to get rather chilly.
It's a massive rivalry, so match days as they start to get nearer, you can feel the tension in the house. So the build-up to it, we don't really talk that much, and then...
No, we don't talk at all.
Yeah, and then we just avoid one another, especially on the day of the game.
Scores! A penalty at Wembley last month set up the historic derby and put United in the way of City's treble-chasing dream. Grealish. Though given their form in recent years, they're going into this the confident favourites.
5 Premier Leagues in 7 years, the FA Cup, Community Shields, playing the Champions League final. I mean, I knew that there will be a certain level that we will achieve.
United fans often crow they are the only team in Manchester to have won the treble. That it is they themselves who have the chance to keep it that way feels like destiny. And a veteran of that long ago campaign has a keen awareness of the sense of history.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And when you talk about the romance of the Cup, and this is what you're talking about, two teams from Manchester in the FA Cup final. So ultimately, let the best team win on that given day.
Red or blue, Manchester expects, but there's no need to fall out over it.
Kidding.
Is there? Callum Watkinson, ITV News.
And you can also watch the FA Cup final from 2:05 tomorrow afternoon on ITV1, ITVX and STV. That's it this lunchtime. The latest Where You Are is next. I'll bring you the evening news at 6:30. Till then, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.
A very good afternoon to you. Sunshine for many today, a cool breeze and staying chilly around those east coast, but in sheltered sunnier spots, feeling so much better. This is the earlier satellite and radar picture. Full-blown blue skies across the bulk of Britain and Northern Ireland. The earlier cloud nibbled away. and it's cheered up quite nicely in many central and eastern spots. Just a little cloud lingering through the far eastern side of East Anglia and Kent there, and a little more cloud for the far northwest of Scotland. Otherwise, sunny skies lifting temperatures to 21 or 22 degrees in sheltered spots, where we've got the breeze from the east, a little cooler, a little fresher, particularly around those North Sea coast. Temperatures a little lower than we'd like given the time of year. Quite chilly here with the breeze, but at least brighter skies away from that cloud around East Anglian coast and parts of Kent. And after that late and low sunshine, clear skies tonight, a touch of mist and murk developing here and there, the cloud coming and going, and for some, clear skies to start the new day, for others, a little grey.